Welcome to part 2 of our off-season Bonanza pod with RainOut Sports with Derek, me, Dax, Connor, and Gabe. So we want to jump into free agency signings here. Historic NHL free agency so far. Over $1 billion spent on the 1st of July.
That actually is just crazy to hear. $1 billion spent. That is a very monumental moment for the NHL. So congratulations to them.
Nashville led the way with $111.5 million on the first day alone. That being said, so we're gonna switch things up a little bit. We're gonna start off with our favorite signings of the NHL offseason so far. So we're gonna take turns. Essentially, you can kind of take it like a draft, right? It's take turns and telling everybody who your favorite signing was of the offseason, or your favorite group of signings during the offseason so far. So let's do a clockwise circle here. So let's start with Connor maybe first. Give us your first favorite signing of the offseason so far.
I'm going to take a bit of a cop out here because I feel like it's probably everyone's number one is Sam Reinhart. Yeah, not Jake Guentzel, Sam Reinhart, because it's a little bit cheaper and I think they kind of offer pretty much similar profiles. So I believe it is 8 years at 8.625. Thank the no tax state for that one. That is one of those classics. Like, if they didn't just win the cup and it wasn't the state income tax thing, like they're probably looking at $10 million for him. So yeah, that to me feels like an easy one. How many goals did he score last year? Like 57? Yeah, so
what?
57, and he's paid 8.625. So that is just, it feels super cop-out, but easily the best.
Where was he last year?
Florida.
Do you think some team would have paid $10 million?
Oh yeah, 100%. You don't? I think absolutely. At the very least, like Utah or something.
Yes, it would be some obscure team.
Yeah,
no top team can pay $10 million for Sam Reinhart.
All top teams are trying to find, ways to save. Like, again, it's same with Guentzel, right? I think he would have cost more.
We would have had to pay $10 million plus. Connor hit it. Literally everything about that contract. Term, average value per year, his age, the way he fits on the team, like literally every single checklist, checkbox, whatever you want to say, Sam Reinhart hit all those boxes. Coming off of a 57-goal season, coming off of a Stanley Cup win with Florida.
A comparable player that got paid way too much, like William Nylander. Great player, but he's getting 11.5 or something. So I think it's just part of the team and like where he is, the income
Is
tax.
that actually how much the income tax affects it, that you're getting
also
going from 11 to 8.6?
Another just as big thing for me is like it's Florida and they just won. So I think it's like,
okay,
we just
so
won
it's
the
a bit
cup.
of that too.
I'm not chasing a cup anymore. I don't, it's not. I think he took a little bit of a discount because it's the team that gave him the shot and he won the cup there. So.
And it's Florida.
It's a nice place to live too, right? So it's like it's all those factors combined. Like the tax thing's a big thing, but it's only part of it.
Yeah.
All right, Gabe. What about you? What's your favorite signing of the summer?
My favorite one is Marchessault. 5 by 5.25, roughly, I think. Consistent 60 to 70 point player, and brings cup experience. It's exactly what Nashville needed. I think it's a better value signing than Stamkos, actually, because Stamkos is signed to at least 41, 42 now. So Marchessault, perfect prime years, still to come. Well, still in that range, and he can lead them to a cup contention if that's not what Nashville can do.
I don't dislike the signing. I don't like the term. I actually think Marchessault's on his way out. He's 33.
He's 33.
33. He's a little
I think
old
he's
to me.
34 by the start.
Yeah. I'll put it this way. I liked the group of signings that they did, but I'll talk about later how I really feel about this whole thing. But I think it had to do it. But at his age, I could see why Vegas wasn't willing to give that term and amount of money.
He did start late though. He started at 23. A little bit.
I think he's one of those classic contracts. He'll probably outperform it in the first half, and then they might regret the second half.
I could see him like a Pavelski type personally.
Yeah.
Like leader in the locker room, still puts up decent points because of He's not all on speed.
He's not like a big guy, and when he gets slow, he's screwed. Like, he's shifty and feisty and smaller and stuff. So I do think he'll age better than most, but it's one of those ones, like, you're paying him until he's 40. Chances are at 37, 38, it's going to look not great.
I think he's only 30. Not 30.
It's one, again, first half, outperform that contract. If he can score 30 goals and 60 points, he's outperforming that contract. So not hard to do. He does that every year for the last, I don't know how many years. And last year he scored 42. It was actually his best production.
Damn.
So
I'm going to cop out a little bit here. My favorite signing was Jake Gensel, 7 years at $9 million. For the fact that Tampa Bay made the trade the day before. Again, this is why I didn't hate the Ryan McDonough trade so much. I didn't like that they took back the money, but Ryan McDonough's contract is off next year, so there's that. But I also think they did it to acquire that second-round pick to send to Carolina for Jake Gensel. And $7 by $9 million, to be honest with you, with a rising cap, is not terrible.
no, it's good. It's a good contract. It's definitely, because he's just turned 30.
Just turned 30.
Yeah, so like I see that as, and it's a 7 year, not 8, right?
7 year,
yeah,
7.
so I literally think he's going to outperform the contract. The first 5 years, he probably easily puts up what's worth that, and then I still think he's a decent enough player, like, that he could be productive in his mid 30s.
I think I'm gonna say for me, it's got to be Duchesne. $3 million for a year, and he's put up 65 points. I don't think that's anything you can really go wrong with.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna, I think that was a big,
Yeah,
nice sign.
I was shocked that he only got the 1 year, honestly. I mean, I know he's coming off a buyout prior to that, but I thought he could have at least got 2 or 3 years at that number. Like, 1 year at $3 million is definitely a steal for his production. Even if he regresses to 50 points, it's still worth more than that.
And then the best part is, if he regresses to 50 points, 1 year.
Yeah, I think there's part of it is, like I mentioned earlier, like, they've got Stankoven and a couple of the young guys, and it's like, well, if Stankoven keeps producing the way he was at the end of last year, then, like, what's the need to overpay for a Duchesne?
How old is Duchesne?
33.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder on his end. You'd assume he would have wanted a bit longer contract, right?
You would.
You'd assume. It makes me wonder if he maybe thinks he can outdo 65 points
I think it's a chance to win a cup. I think that's a big part of it. He's at that age. He hasn't got one. You're willing to take the big haircut, to stay on a team that can do it.
Yeah.
I personally think it's because he already got bought out. So he's already making money.
Yeah, I guess Nashville's still paying him.
Yeah, they're still paying
$5
him.
million, so technically he's getting like
to,
8.
to me, like, he already has a contract. So I think what you said, at this point, it's just location to win, and then he's already making money.
Yeah, I totally forgot. He's still getting paid a large part of that other one. So
How long?
probably
3 or 4
a couple
years.
years, because buyout's doubled the length. So yeah, I'm gonna say 3 or 4 years. I'm still making $4 or $5 million from Nashville.
Good for him. I'm happy for him.
It's crazy that Duchesne's just gotten better as he's aged. Like, he's more appreciated in his 30s than he was in his 20s.
Yeah, he had one of those draft pedigrees where everyone just expected a lot, and I think he
had 90 once, I think. If I remember, was it in Colorado? He had 90.
I don't think so. He hit 86 with Nashville.
his first year, right? And that's what led to the big contract, and then immediately fell off shortly after.
All right, Connor, what's your next favorite signing?
I'm going to stick with forwards for now anyways, and I mentioned him to you guys earlier, but I'm a big fan. I know Derek's an even bigger fan, is Tero Teravainen. I kind of wanted us to get him. I think I mentioned you guys too. I think Gensel was plan A, DeBrusk was plan B, and I feel like Teravainen was like plan C. He's a pretty good top 6 forward. He's a good two-way player. He's good for 50 to 65 point range. And I was kind of shocked when I saw, one, that he went to Chicago, but I guess that's where he got drafted. When I saw the term and the number and everything, I was like, damn, I wish we got that. It's 3 years at 5.4, I believe.
Yeah. Or is it 5.4? Yeah, it's 5.4.
5.4.
Yeah.
That's a good contract.
It's a good contract. It's a great contract.
He's one of those guys, like, when we talk about, like, he just, like, where he was positioned on the teams, I feel like he's going to go there and people are going to be like, oh, damn, this guy is really good. He's just needed the chance to be where he is.
Yeah, I mean,
And Chicago's a place to do
Connor
that.
Bedard with him on his line, right?
That's
I think,
never a bad place
they
to be.
signed him and Tyler Bertuzzi, and I fully expect of the two of them, Teravainen to have the best chance at a career year. So
70 points?
I think it's possible.
Because he's going to get all the power play minutes,
If
too.
Bedard can
that's
elevate himself to a 90, 100-point player, one of his line mates is going to get dragged along to that 65, 70 plus point range, and it's probably Teravainen. So.
Yeah.
And that plus minus shouldn't be too bad either.
No, he's a good defensive player too. That's why I kind of wanted him. I knew Talkett would definitely like him. He's a penalty killer. He's a good, respectable two-way player, but he's got offense too. So yeah, I like that contract.
All right, what about you, Gabe? What's next?
My favorite value contract is Jeff Skinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3x1. Still hasn't played a playoff game
That's crazy.
in his
What?
Yeah.
He's
Never.
entering
Never.
the 1,000-game
Never.
range, I think.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
played regular season.
Well, he's been
So
on
get
Buffalo
this.
the whole time.
No, he was on Carolina
When they were
when they were trash.
right,
and then they
right.
traded him to Buffalo, and then Carolina made the playoffs.
yeah.
The year after?
And then Buffalo has not made the playoffs since he's been there, and they still have not. I don't know if they're going to make it this year. So now he's been bought out by Buffalo, and he's ended up on.
Guaranteed a playoff game.
Yeah.
Like I would feel more than confident to say that man is guaranteed a playoff.
Otherwise, he is the curse.
I'm sick and tired of Edmonton getting more of this story. Now everyone's going, I hope Edmonton wins because of Connor McDavid, Draisaitl, all the shitty years, and Jeff Skinner, oh, boo-hoo. I'm sick and tired of this Edmonton stuff. I'm done with it.
Like, I could see him hit 90 with McDavid.
I'm not going to go that lofty, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But
it just
it could.
depends.
It could.
Yeah.
Because that McDavid line is set. It's RNH, McDavid, Hyman.
Okay,
So,
well, Draisaitl.
Draisaitl, yeah.
One of those
Yeah.
two lines. He'll flip-flop. He's effectively the top
I think it all
skilled
comes down
winger.
to whether or not he gets power play time. Because I kind of feel like the power play is full, right? It's RNH, Draisaitl, McDavid, Hyman, and Bouchard on the
Bouchard.
point. So he'd have to bump RNH off the power play.
Which I don't think happens.
I don't think it happens. So because of that, I would set expectations closer to like 30 goals and 65 points.
Which is still a good season,
Yeah.
and he's
1
going to help
year-
out in the playoffs.
Yeah, 1 year at $3 million. That's an amazing deal. like, yeah, absolutely, definitely a good contract.
And you want that person who wants that drive to actually thrive in
Yeah.
the playoffs. So there you go.
My next one, I'm going to be a little bit of a homer here, and we've already talked about this, but I really love Joshua coming back to us for 4x3.25. I think we talked about it in our last RainOut pod. We all thought that he was gone because we weren't going to be able to afford him, and that if someone was going to overpay, good for Joshua, but it's not going to be us. The fact that we got him for 3.25 with pretty great term, like he's a little bit older because he broke into the league later. Like I'm saying this as he's a 27-year-old, but I mean 4-year term, we're going to get him to the early 30s, effectively like his prime athletic years in terms of a power forward. So I thought Alvin knocked this out of the
And
park.
like you could say, like technically, like not a lot of wear and tear on him, right? Because of the fact that he hasn't had an 8-year career at this point.
Excuse me. I was torn between Duchesne and This Is My First. I think a lot of it, again, I referred to it earlier, is just the fact that it really signifies to me as a Canucks fan, like these are the kind of deals that we didn't make ever. We never made these deals. We always made the bad ones where we got the fans were so in love with the player and we thought we were gonna win. It was just bad, and we're gonna discuss that stuff later. But like that, it's just nice to see the other side of our management making the good deals, and we're getting the smart player as opposed to usually we'd like extend the bad player and let Joshua go kind of thing. So it's just for me that I was just happy to see that as well.
Yeah, the letting Tyler Foley walk so you can sign Jake Virtanen.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I always dream of when you say something like that.
Dream contract, Russian legend, Jake
I like him. I
Virtanen.
think he's going to improve a little bit.
Yeah,
He's got
I
room
think
to grow.
even at the number he's at, like even if he's just a great third line goal scoring top 5-10 hitter in the league who plays on your penalty kill, like it's a score.
Yeah.
Like it's a good contract. So I don't worry about that one very much.
All right, Connor, what's next one for you?
Probably going back to Edmonton, Victor Arvidsson. Yeah, sorry, Dax. I see that was on your list. But your
we
reaction
got to get
for
them all talked about.
Yeah, no, I mean, what was it, 2 years?
4 million.
2 years of $4 million. So obviously he's had a ton of injury history, unfortunately, in LA. But when he has played, he's absolutely looked like a top 6 threat on a more conservative team too. So you have to wonder, as long as he's healthy, what he could do on, say, Draisaitl's line with Jeff Skinner on the opposing wing. Like, that to me just screams like potential for a career year as long as he's healthy. I want to say his career best is probably like 65 points or something like that. So yeah, I really like that contract. There's not a lot of term attached to it. The cap, it's not too high. What he brings to the team too, like he's a good two-way player. So long as he stays healthy, like that could easily go down as one of the better contracts when all said and done.
They have 2 decent power plays now. They could make like,
their
split
second
around.
power play
Yeah.
actually looks good.
They could split
really
Draisaitl
do.
with
Yeah.
McDavid.
Yeah, I wish I don't think, but not for the power play.
The only thing with power plays,
They will try it.
Yeah.
You know they will try it.
nowadays the power play is you run your first one for like a minute 40 and then your second one gets 20 to 30 seconds. Like, I think they'll stack the first one as is.
Maybe double shift as they do.
Who knows? But yeah, I just think 5-on-5 though, like they've definitely improved by adding a guy like that. So I like that contract a lot.
Honestly, the reason why I love this contract a lot, and we talked about this in our last pod with Victor Arvidsson, how he's been super unappreciated even in LA. He was basically a point per game guy when he played, right? We always said if he got a chance or he was fully healthy, he could be a really, really good cog in this big machine. But the fact that you're pairing him now on the second line with Skinner, Draisaitl, and Arvidsson, Draisaitl finally has toys to play.
That's cool.
Right?
That's a solid line.
And honestly, a good trickle-down effect to this is you actually are putting Evander Kane now in the role that he's supposed to be playing at this point in his career. A freaking third line, checking, scoring, whatever, where. That's the guy that he's supposed to be now.
Yeah, for sure.
I got skipped in that round, so I'm just gonna pop on in here. I enjoyed, I really like the Shane Gostisbehere to Carolina. Is that correct though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I like Gostisbehere. I just feel like sometimes you it's kind of like one of those things. As we all know, if you're at a place too long and it's just kind of like things go stale, it stops working out. So I think it's a nice start for him to be there now.
Yeah, I like that one too. Actually, there's like potential for him to run the first power play. Like he did really well in Detroit last year. He basically took that job pretty quickly on the first power play over Sider, and he ran with it. I think he had like 45 points or more. Yeah, I thought it was nice to see. I've been a big fan of him for a long time. Back when I feel like I drafted him early on when he was a nobody, and he just had the nickname Ghost.
Yeah, I remember
But,
that.
yeah, he's a fun player, and I think he could really help Carolina offset their losses because they're one of the teams I think they struggled in the offseason big time. So I think he could be a big part of helping them kind of keep their form. And again, if he gets on that first power play unit, because really he's just got to beat out Slavin or Burns, and they're both great D-men in their own right, but they're specifically Slavin is more of a two-way guy. Ghost is purely there for the offense. So I like the signing too. It wasn't too much money. Was it 3 something?
3.2.
Yeah,
3.2.
3.2 a few years. So yeah, I like the contract.
I really liked it actually because, like you said, they lost Brett Pesce. They lost
Brady
Shea.
Yeah.
It's just those are 2 really big pieces on the defense, and I think it just stopped. The pouring. They brought back Jalen Chatfield and bringing back Ghost. Now he's a veteran guy.
Another guy we'll talk about.
Yeah, we'll talk about him too.
But yeah.
What do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Ghost. Just needs to play a full season and not get scratched because of his defensive liabilities.
Yeah.
But
he's paired with the right guy.
Exactly, and I think Carolina is such a defensive team.
Yeah, I'm trying to think their left side second pair is Orlov.
I think so. He's still locked in for a while,
Pair
right?
him with Orlov. That could be a good pair.
I'll just this is not my pick, but I'll just throw it in because we'll just talk Carolina because Carolina's a solid team. They could be a cup contender, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they added, if I can say, Tyson Joseph, Roslovic this year.
Yeah,
which is like
good depth guys.
2 really solid centers.
Especially Roslovic, you just don't. I still am unsure of where he's gonna wind up in his career.
Yeah, and they were cheap. I think they were both cheap contracts upon 1 years.
Yeah,
I think
Jost
so.
has been struggling. He's in it's a make or break kind of landing spot for him.
Yeah.
But Roslovic has actually been sneakily good in Columbus and his little bit of time in New York in the deadline. So I do kind of like the player too, Roslovic. I think there's a future for him there still.
Speaking of Ghost, top 5 nickname in the NHL.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what else is like? They don't have
Bobrovsky.
amazing nicknames back then.
Yeah,
You
the
know?
NHL too is just not, you know.
They used to though, like Finnish Flash,
Yeah.
the Great One.
Yeah,
You know, they used to have some pretty cool.
yeah. No, it's true. There's not a lot of good ones right now.
No,
I'm
even
trying to
like
think
the
off
OV
top of my
area
head.
and Sid the Kid.
Yeah, it was okay, but
Yeah, you're
yeah.
right. There's not really very many cool nicknames these days.
I can't think of Breadman. That's probably the best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Breadman is.
that's
The,
cool.
Do you know why he's called the Breadman?
I'm trying to remember his story.
I know this. I want to say
Gabe probably knows. I remember you sent me
Do you know why it's
a
called a
Athletic
Breadman?
article one
Is
day.
it? It's not
years ago.
Panera, is it?
it is.
It is
It is
Panera.
It is
Yeah,
Panera
yeah,
Bread.
yes, it is.
So you came to Chicago, and Patrick Kane said, "Hey, your name sounds like Panera Bread." So he started calling him the Bread Man.
Nice. That's good.
Pretty dope. So we just talked about Ghost for Derek here. We'll transition to Gabe. What's your next favorite contract here?
This is one that might be a bit controversial, but I like the Monahan signing.
How dare you!
Hey. Yeah, I can see Dax's face. He's leaving the room. No. He's getting ready.
Tell me why.
He's 29. He has experience with Gaudreau. He takes the spotlight off Fantilli until he's ready.
I just think for 5.5 or 5 years with his injury history is absurd for Columbus to take on. I think they don't know where they're going to be right now, whether they're rebuilding or they want to be good. I kind of feel like they should have just given the reins to Cole Sillinger and Fantilli. You also have Boone Jenner to like right the ship. I just think it was a little bit too much term. Maybe if you had him for 2 years, I could be on board.
I was going to say 3. If I
But
saw
5
that
is a long
contract
time.
at 3 years, I'd be okay with it.
I have a
2
feeling-
years, I'd really like it. 5 years is too long. For the same reason Dax said, and you point out he's 29, which is nuts, because I was actually looking at him yesterday.
He's played a lot.
Yeah,
for
it's
29.
crazy. And when he plays, he produces pretty darn well.
On a crappy Montreal. Well, no, it wasn't
Calgary.
bad.
Well, no, even his time in Calgary, I was just looking at his career yesterday, and I was just like, you know what, like his 5-6 year spree in Calgary was like very productive. Like,
With Gaudreau.
yeah,
Injury, too.
exactly.
So
But
I feel Gaudreau had a hand in it. Like he was like, let's.
he probably
Keep
convinced
me
him to
happy.
come. I'm sure Monahan wasn't choosing Columbus as his first choice.
Yeah.
But if they offered probably what I felt like was the best contract, and then your buddy Johnny is telling you to come on over, then like I could see why he went there for sure.
I could see it working out. I could see.
I could too. I'm a big fan of Sean Monahan. I had him in fantasy for years and years. I finally broke out and then got hurt. But yeah, it's a little too much term. That's my only issue with it.
I guess that's your first big disagree because I just didn't. I don't know.
You can buy it out.
Can I ask if it's on your NHL worst contracts?
It is. It's definitely up there. And
I had a feeling.
I've got it just off of mine. The term again, I don't like, but I wouldn't put it in my like top 10 worst.
Connor, what's your next favorite signing?
Favorite signing? One I know Gabe will like for sure, and now that I saw the contract, I actually do kind of wish maybe the Canucks considered him some more, was Brett Pesce. To New Jersey for 6 years at 5.5. Is that right? Yeah, so
We couldn't afford it.
I know, but you even said, like, imagine him with Quinn Hughes, which means Ronan could play with Susie, and I would love that top 4. It's one of those contracts, like, you either say, we're not getting DeBrusk and we're going to build our defense, like, super strong, or you're getting DeBrusk and you're just kind of tooling with the defense bit. So, yeah, I really like the contract, though, especially the fit. New Jersey's good up. Same thing with Markstrom, right? We're like, what do they need? They need a goalie and maybe, in my opinion, a few more good, like, rugged Kostanev type defensemen. And they did it. They got him and another guy I'm sure we'll talk about, Brendan Dillon, and then Markstrom. Like, they went from having a pretty bad back end with some good young up-and-coming defensemen to, like, a really good goalie and 2 really solid defensemen that can play with some good youth. So I really like Brett Pesce too. Like, a big fan of his. I thought he was actually going to sign for kind of a ridiculous number. I thought it was pretty fair at the end of the day. So.
I think this one might be a little controversial, but you know what? Let's do it. I think one of my favorite signings is Montemor and Stevenson to Seattle. And I know what you're all thinking.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
And I know you're all thinking, like, well, they're 30 years old, and they signed 7-year contracts. And let's be real here. Seattle needs goals. So signing all of this old back-end stuff, it's just not helping the team at all. So you're probably going, Derek, this is one of your best signings? Well, yeah, because I am strictly against any team that is in our division. I hate them all. So for me, this is one of the best signings.
Touche. No way you believe this is the best contract, but I get it.
I mean, taking thunder from my top worst signings, those two contracts to me, individually, I already dislike. Combined, like Voltron, this is like this is literally, they're such losers for me. Not just because of the player. Montour is good. You want to Stanley Cup. Stevenson's good. You want to Stanley Cup. But for 7 years, 14 years, $13 million combined for the both of them, that is insane.
This reminds me of when Minnesota did the
Suter thing. Yeah. And even back then, I always felt like one of them was more acceptable than the other. And I feel like it's the same here with, like, I get them on tour one. I always thought their defense outside of Vince Dunn was, like, seriously lacking. And Brandon Montour is 1 year removed from 73 points or something crazy. I don't think that's who he is. I also don't think he's the 30-point defenseman we just saw or whatever he had. I think he's more like Hronik. He's kind of in that 40-50 range. Good puck mover, pretty solid defensively. So I don't hate his contract as much. I hate the Chandler Stevenson one.
So bad.
Because again, with what your team needs, so in Seattle's case, like, they needed Montour. They need a Montour, right? They have nothing in their prospect pipeline as far as defensemen. All they have is Vince Dunn, and then it's like Adam Larson, Alexiak, like a bunch of slow guys that are like physical. So I got that one. When I saw Chandler Stevenson's, I was like, wait, why? Like, you have Jared McCann and Matty Berniers and even Shane Wright upcoming.
I was going to say, is Shane Wright sitting there like, am I a joke to you guys?
Yeah. I think he's probably like, I guess you're a winger? Like, I don't know. And in fairness, Stevenson can be a wing too, right? He doesn't have to be a center, but they sure shit paid him like one. So yeah, Chandler Stevenson one blew my mind. I was like, this guy is at best a 50, 60-point guy this year, and that's not sustainable, and you're paying him a little bit more than what he's worth even right now, and that's going to look so bad in 3 or 4 years, like so bad.
So it looks like we're slowly transitioning into the worst contracts here. Before I move on, is there any other contracts that you like? Just spit them out. You don't have to go one at a time. Talk about it. Maybe talk about them as a group. What are your favorite contracts? We're maybe before I move on.
Sounds good. I'll go. I really like Cam Atkinson for $900 for a year. He's hit 50, 60 points multiple times, and he could see top 6 minutes and regain that role. And I think it's a really good sign.
At that price, I mean, you can't go wrong.
Have we talked about Stamkos?
Not yet.
Not at all. Yeah.
No?
I have to say, so I don't know. I think it's cool. I do enjoy the more of the star movement. Even though Stamkos is a bit older, I still say he's a star.
Yeah.
So it is just fun to see stars that move around. It's just weird to see Stamkos in the Nashville jersey. That first picture, I was like, what? Like, like in a
Toronto jersey, I wouldn't bat an eye.
Not like a Nashville.
one?
Yeah. It was just weird to see, but I mean, I guess I'll just go with that whole section since we haven't talked about, because we haven't talked about Nashville at all, have we?
We talked about Marshall. We can talk about it.
Well, like Nashville, I just think they made some really nice upgrades to their team, because quite frankly, I felt like Nashville's thing since basically since the dawn of their franchises, they've always had good defense. And then that transitioned into, I still can't say that. Transitioned into good defense and goaltending when Pecorine and now DeSaros, but they just never, to me, had anything that really even resembled close to true goal scoring.
Philippe Forsberg is.
That's
but
it.
He only truly broke out. I felt like was
3
it
years.
this
3 years ago.
last 2 years.
3 years,
ago?
3
Last
years
2
ago.
years.
3 years, then last year he dipped, and then this year he's good.
Yeah, like they
Like,
just.
this was by far his best year.
Oh,
I
yeah.
believe, right? He had 90 points or something. Like again, him and Monahan are my two like fantasy gems I held for years and years, telling you guys they're gonna break out. Monahan finally did. He got hurt. Forsberg just, hung out at 65 points for years, and then he just finally broke out. But yeah, their goal scoring is. They've been a boring team.
Yeah, like now when you look at them in the playoffs, like again, every time they've been in there, like even when Vancouver's playing them, I was never worried because you were like, it's going to be tight hockey. You're going to watch this team that has good goaltending, good defense, and they've historically always done that. But they're not going to outscore you. They're just never going to do that. And it's consistently been that every time we've met them in the playoffs and every other team when they get deep into it. So this is now, I see this iteration of Nashville in the playoffs, and I genuinely go like, shit, like...
I'm scared to play on.
Yeah.
They added 2 Stanley Cup winners.
Yeah.
Well, it's just the talent level, right? Like, you imagine playing the Nashville team today, the one we played in the playoffs. Like, they had Marchessault, Stamkos, and Brady Shea. Like,
Yeah,
those
that's
are-
crazy.
That power play's
that
gonna
power
destroy.
play's scary as hell.
You
All of a
can't take
sudden,
penalties.
just scary.
Yeah.
Like, Ryan O'Reilly, Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault, and Yossi. Like, that's a good power play. And they didn't lose Saros, which a lot of us were speculating for a long time. So
I do wonder about that Brady Shea contract.
that's I was going to touch
7
on
by-
that.
7 by 7.
I've got that sneaking into my worst contracts. It's rated around like number 10.
Looks like we're about to transition here, but I'm going to do one last comment on the Nashville thing since we all jumped on it here. So I actually have them, and we'll get to it later. I have them as one of my winners, but I actually personally, and I talked about it in the Marchessault contract earlier, I don't personally like all 3 of those contracts. I know why they did it. Their team is more dangerous. Their team can score now, and the next 1 to 2 years, great. I just think for the amount of money they doled out to those guys, those are some veterans.
Yeah.
Stamkos is 34, and I watched a lot of Tampa Bay last year, and that man is cooked 5-on-5. A lot of his points came on power play, and you know who they came off of? My Russian friend Kucherov. And there's not a
Always gotta
passer on
bring
that
him up.
Nashville team
Yeah.
that does what he does. And speaking of Brady Shea, I completely agree. He's getting paid. I love him, not at $7 million a year.
No, he should have been paid 5.5.
Yeah, like Brent Pesce and him are totally different defensemen, but Brent Pesce is also much better at actually playing defense. Like if he had signed the 6-year at 5.5, I'd love that contract. I'd be like, that's a good contract. But at $7 million, 7 years, I don't really love it. I don't hate it. Again, it barely sneaks into my top 10. It's probably like number 10 on worst contracts for me, but it's just a little too much money.
I just think Trotz was like, let's put all our eggs in, right?
Yeah, they're absolutely looking at Forsberg, Yossi, and Saros and saying they're probably telling themselves it's 2 to 3 years, I'm sure. And you had to add that extra term to all of those guys to get them to come because they probably had better offers from potentially better teams. I think it's all of them got too much term, but Nashville is way scarier right now than they were in the playoffs.
And they still have one thing in their arsenal, trading Askarov.
Yeah. But I do believe they're kind of in cap hell now. So I think whatever they do with Askarov is probably going to be a prospect for prospect pick kind of swap. Like, I don't know if you guys saw much about the whole Ruder McGroarty thing out of Winnipeg.
No, can you explain what happened? I saw his name pop up.
So yeah, Ruder McGroarty is like a pretty good NHL prospect. He's kind of like in and around, what's his name that got traded from Philadelphia?
Cutter Gauthier.
Cutter Gauthier. He's kind of like that level of prospect. Like he's got a pretty good chance of being like a top 6 NHLer in the future. But he is apparently being a complete dickhead and making all these Adam Fox-like commands of where he goes and what he gets. And and who knows, maybe part of it is, in fairness, it's Winnipeg, and he's probably like, I don't want to live in Winnipeg or have a career there. And apparently management's not just offering him top 6 opportunities, so he's wanting to like walk away and go somewhere else.
I don't like the idea of you're not getting the top 6 opportunities, but I can respect not wanting to go to
Like
Winnipeg.
the guy, but like he hasn't even played in the AHL like a single game, and he thinks he's deserving of top 6 NHL minutes, and it's like you're smoking something crazy over there.
You have to be so good.
Yeah, but I see a situation where like Askarov gets traded for a Ruder McGroarty in a pick kind of situation.
All right. I think, naturally speaking, we're going to go into the worst contracts, and I'm just going to reiterate Derek's best contracts, which obviously we all understood was sarcasm, but
Whoa.
I'm calling you a liar. But that Montour and Stevenson contract, good goodness. But I'm going to start off with my worst contracts is that Joel Edmondson signing with Los Angeles.
Yeah, thank you. That's
4 by 3.85. I have literally, let's trade away PLD. Let's save $8.5 million, but let's spend $3.85 million over the next 4 years for Joel Edmondson.
That was pretty bad.
That was my number one. Yeah, the Joel. That one, when I was at home that day watching it, was blown away by that one. I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me?" I thought he was gonna get like Derek Forbort kind of contract, like 1 year, 1.5. He's basically like a number 6-7 on anywhere in the
Not
league.
basically, Connor.
He is.
He was the 6th defenseman on Toronto.
Yeah, exactly. And he got traded from
Toronto.
St. Louis?
From Montreal.
Montreal, right?
I think
he was
we
like
can-
the 6th man in Montreal, like a rebuild.
But that,
Montreal.
between Montreal and Toronto, that is basically the center of hockey for the universe, is it not? That's got to be worth something.
No, because that just tells them that they're overvaluing them. Because they're in Toronto or Montreal. If anything, you should probably get less in your next deal. Yeah, that was a terrible contract. I'm actually still like just shaking my head at that one, being like, that's a buyout in a year.
Especially because how old he is, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you're
injury
paying...
history.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of injury
Yeah.
history, too. Like, a lot of surgeries, I'm pretty sure. So, I swear to God, I think that's bought out next summer.
All right, what's your number one, Gabe?
Mr. Tanev.
Chris Tanev.
He's going to do well for a year or two, but those last 4 years are not going to be good. 5.5 for 6 years.
Yeah, the term is insane.
That was one of the first signings.
Was it 4.5, I thought?
4.5.
4.5.
Is it 4.5?
4.5
Gosh.
by 6 years.
By 6 years.
6
4.5 isn't as
years.
bad for the buyout purposes because it's in their window, but they could have done better.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the term. I thought if you told me it was 4 years to 4.5, I'd be like, meh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like he'll probably make it to there. He'll be a Band-Aid by the end of it, but like he'll make it, and he'll make it. He'll probably give you surplus value in the first 2 years, and the second half he'll get old and get hurt. But it's 6 years. Again, if he gives you 2 good years, it's probably all downhill after that. Mainly because maybe they just know that he's going to end up in LTIR.
That's the rumor. The rumor is that they signed this contract to bring him home.
Yeah.
But
I've heard they want him in management.
yeah, so that it's going to be like an LTIR retirement early type
and
of
you
deal.
wind up in management.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Connor, what's your worst contract? I took the steam from you with Edmondson.
Yeah, so number 2 is Zadorov, and I've talked about him at length already. But my number 2 is Zadorov. I don't know if we really touched on it. This was the biggest overpay for defenseman in free agency I've ever seen.
Can you explain the contract?
Yeah, so Zadorov is $5 million for 5 years, 6 years, 6 years. Terrible, terrible contract.
It's gonna age so bad.
Yeah, I think he's a great third pair D-man. He can play in your top 4 in a pinch, like he did it for us when Soucy went down, and he did a pretty decent job at it. But at $5 million, like that's not someone who jumps into your top 4. That's a permanent fixture in your top 4. That's arguably your third best defenseman at $5 million, right? Like our best example, we've got Hughes Hronik, and then it drops off significantly. But most teams, like your third guy gets paid in around that money. That's terrible money. Like, I'm sorry. He's going to probably get bought out. I'll give him 2 years. I think they'll, let it go for a while, even if he has a terrible next year. And, I don't like that contract. To me, Zadorov is not worth more than 3.5. So
I feel like, again, with Canucks actually making good moves, this is one of those guys that people loved him because of his playoffs. And granted, he did really well in the playoffs. He got a 1-game suspension for cross-checking Connor McDavid in the face, which everyone loved.
Yeah.
And then he scored those 2 goals on the off angle. And to the untrained eye, those look like these crazy snipes of like what a skilled player. But if you actually know what's going on, the way the goalies are playing now, they always go down on the near side post there, and it's just kind of a play a lot of players have been like you throw at the top right corner, the top left corner.
90% of the net.
Yeah, and then
don't let in the easy 5 holes.
And so like it's as much as I'm not saying like it's so easy, but it's not like this like this skill play that you might think it is, as much as it's kind of like a thing they know that is there and you throw it on net. So between those 2 goals on weird off angles from the boards and the fact that he cross-checked Connor McDavid, a lot of people were like, we got to get this guy at any cost. And I'm like, well, if you step back, like I don't know if you want a guy that's cross-checking people in the face all the time, truly.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, yeah, like so I just feel like it's just I'm glad we don't have him.
Yeah.
I will say Zadorov will be the perfect Boston player, and he will be a fan favorite. Like, the style, he will be loved and celebrated by that city.
You're only a fan favorite if you produce, though, right? Like, you can take all the Connor McDavid cross-checks you want, but, like, if you're minus something and you're terrible and you're turnover machine and you take bad penalties game in and game out, like,
true,
even the best of fans who love you will turn on you. Like,
and I will say, this is another Tanev-like contract, where they're hoping to do something in the next 2 years in their window, and I think their window is closing after that. So just go for it now. I know I'm not saying that it was a good contract. I'm just saying that maybe that's the best they could do at this moment.
All I'm saying is, for everybody that it's a Canucks fan that wanted to keep Zadorov around and was bummed that we let him go and went to Boston, like Derek was saying, because of a couple of snipes of goals and he showed up in the playoffs, had some big hits and a cross-check. It's the age-old saying of, do you want to be good or do you want to keep all the guys that you like on the team?
yeah.
Let's keep everybody together. Let's keep the whole. Let's keep Tanner Pearson and Mason Raymond, and let's just have a happy tree family. Let's keep the Sedins both in their late mid-40s, and we're going to suck all the time. I understand why everybody loved him, and he was a good first soundbite as well too, but he had to go for that much money. I think you're next for your worst contract, Eric.
For me, I'm gonna just say Toffoli. I just think Toffoli, when we didn't sign him, I was upset about it. But at that time, I thought it was one of those things that was kind of like give or take. He could still be good, but he was old, and now he's actually old. So, excuse me, 4 years at $6 million for a 32-year-old Tyler Toffoli is definitely one of the worst things you can do for me, especially at San Jose.
Yeah, that's the biggest one for me. If it was like on a contending team, I could maybe a contending team that knows their window's gone in 2 years. I could see it being okay because they're just trying to win in the next 2 years. But to go to San Jose, and even in San Jose's case, not sign him to something that you could later flip for a return, I don't really get it. Like, I don't get the fit. I don't get why. I guess it's just a retirement thing for him. It's money, and you live in California. Like, that's how I looked at it when I saw it.
Yeah, and you just add some scoring for the team for the time being.
He does have a cup on his resume too, so I guess he's not.
That's true.
Searching for that.
Yeah. I think on a young team like that, you don't want them to be desolate of offense. You need that positivity to keep going.
Yeah, I totally got why San Jose did it. I didn't at first when I saw it. I was like, why? Why did you go there?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, he has a cup. He wants to get paid. He wants to live somewhere sunny. That's all I kind of came down to.
He started in LA too. You might have a place there, maybe.
Yeah, that's
just
a good
now.
point.
I just thought of that right now.
Yeah.
My next contract, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I think it is because I didn't realize he was this old. But Pavel Buchnevich, he's 30 years old, and he signed on a really crappy St. Louis team for $6.8 million. I think he's good, and he produces, but St. Louis sucks. They don't need a 30-year-old eating $8 million a year for the next 6 years. I think that's going to be a black hole, and they're going to have to start re-signing some of their better guys.
Yeah, I do like the player a lot. I think he's still very productive. He's been averaging close to a point per game for a couple of years now. But like you said, again, the fit I'm like, really? I don't know. St. Louis is one of those teams that are just like clinging on to whatever they have. I don't think they should. They should have started a rebuild like 2 years ago. But yeah, I like the player. I don't like the fit, and the money's okay because I think he'll probably perform well in the first half, and then it's one of those second halves that starts to go downhill. But
yeah, St. Louis had to make that signing. Honestly, like they couldn't risk losing him for nothing, and I think he's a tradable asset in like 2-3 years with some cap retention.
I kind of thought the opposite because he had one more year left on his last deal. I thought that money was more tradable at the deadline than re-signing him at 8. I think 8 is a tough pill to swallow in a contender now. Who can absorb $8 million if your team is already built to win?
Yeah, they'd have to retain some pretty.
Well, 25%. That would be $6 million. That is worth it. Maybe if you sell.
It's one of those trades. Yeah, I could see it. It's like I see another one. I know we're not going to talk about him because he's not a free agent or whatever. But like, there's been like rumblings about Nazem Kadri. Obviously, he signed that contract with Calgary when they were coming off their crazy year and expected to be competing. And I think he's $7 million for 5 or 6 years still. I've heard rumblings that Calgary's willing to retain.
He had a good year last year.
Yeah, he's still a good player. He's
sucked.
easily a second line center anywhere in the NHL. So like, I look at it and I'm like, if Calgary retained enough and put that number down to like 5.5, that's super valuable. Even at 5 years still, like a lot of teams would jump all over that. So maybe they could do the same thing with Buchnevich in a couple of years if they have to. But yeah, I didn't like the timing or the fit. But
what's your next contract, Ed?
I don't have that many off the top of my head, but I do have one that I want to revisit. That's a 50-50. What do you think about the Duclair?
You didn't like that one?
I thought it was decent, but it's a lengthy contract. He could kind of go downward, but he
I had that one actually close when we stopped favorite contracts. That was my next one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. It was on my favorites, but it could go either way.
Yeah, I do believe it could go either way. It's one of those contracts he could score 30 goals and 65 points and it looks amazing, or he could be a total plug and score like 15 and 30 points.
Counter. He's only 28.
Yeah.
And that $3.5 million contract is super, super tradable.
It is. Yeah.
And he's shown that if he lands on a team with pieces that can support him, he produces at a really high rate.
Yeah, I do know defensively he's lacking quite a bit.
That's why you put him on a team that can support him.
Like, because remember we talked about it, I wouldn't mind maybe us trying him on our team, like the Canucks, and then I kind of thought after, and I was like, nah, I don't think Tocchet would vibe with that too well, so.
Yeah, and I think the Islanders are at the cap already.
Yeah.
So signing a guy like this to add on your roster is pretty good. Pretty good business.
All right, let's do 2 more. So Connor, give me a worst contract, and then Derek will go you, and then we'll do maybe a list. The same thing that we did to end off the favorite signings.
I'm going to do a little bit of a combined one because they both went to the same team and probably are going to end up pairing together. Matt Dumba and Ilya Lyubushkin on Dallas. Both guys kind of like Joel Edmondson, where I'm like, oh yeah, they could play on a third pair somewhere. Just don't give them too much money or term. And of all the teams, Dallas when he gave it to both of them. And that one blew my mind a bit. I was like, okay, both of them are not, second pairing guys. I think Dumba's like 3.75, Bushkin's like 3 something too. Didn't like that. I was kind of like, okay, Dallas, like, I thought, keep the momentum, don't do that. So, yeah.
You know what's funny? Because obviously Dumba, Tampa Bay traded for Dumba at the deadline last year. And as soon as that contract dropped on the Reddit, because Tampa Bay Reddit was going on like self-destruct mode when Stamkos left.
Right.
It was so polarizing, which was weird because I thought Gensel for Stamkos, I get Stamkos as a legend, but that trade-off makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But as soon as the Dumba signing dropped, it was like a unanimous like, oh, thank God we didn't pay that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I thought, for how well Duclair did when he went to Tampa, Dumba did the opposite. Like, he was already struggling in Arizona. On his 1-year deal he signed there as a prove me contract, totally backfired, and then he got traded to Tampa and didn't do much there. So to see Dallas go and then hand him like 3 or 4 years at that number, I was like, why? Like, why did you do that? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, I thought Dallas's scouting department was pretty good. up until that
I
point.
did too.
Yeah, up until that point.
I've liked everything they've done for years now. Jim Neal has won back-to-back
Yeah, I think so.
GM awards or whatever, and he's not winning next year. I'll tell you that right now. He's not winning next year. Those two contracts.
Can you imagine they won the cup?
Yeah, that's
the only one.
Doesn't even apply because it's regular season technically awards. But yeah,
Right.
So that was my kind of combo. Didn't like those.
I'd just like to take a minute to get a little serious here. It's the middle of summer. It's been really hot. I think we're gonna get up to the high 30s. The interior's already hit the low 40s. In times like these, it's important that you get your electrolytes in, your salts in, your sugars. Stay hydrated, if you will. Today's unofficial sponsor of the podcast, Prime Energy, the new strawberry banana flavor. Yeah, you've seen it out there. It's pink, it's yellow, it's strawberry banana. You see that bottle, you want some. Try Prime Energy. Back to the show.
All right, well, we're wrapping up the worst contracts. Is there anybody else that you want to say before we get into our winners and losers of the offseason so far?
I got one left.
All right, shoot.
OEL, baby.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, OEL.
Stanley Cup winner, OEL.
Good for him. I mean, at the end of the day, he kind of rejuvenated his career when it could have easily just died out.
Yeah.
He had a good year in Florida, but at the end of the day, he primarily played on the third pair, especially once everyone was healthy anyways. I know he started way up the lineup, but he definitely trailed off by the end. He was decent in the playoffs. They were even using him on the power play times, but I think, his first half was monumentally better than the second half. Yeah, I don't know how the hell he turned that into. Was it 4 years at 3.2?
4 years, 3.5.
3.5?
Nice round number.
I don't think Toronto's going to like that one either. If they plan on putting him with Chris Tanev, poor Tanev. Yeah, didn't like that contract. If it was 2 years at that number, I wouldn't even blink an eye at it. But 4 years for a guy that's coming off a 1 year contract after a buyout, that's just never good business in my opinion. I don't know how the hell players get that after buyouts. So, yeah.
Sorry, I don't get it because as all of us are, we're just armchair sit-at-home sports commentators like everyone listening to this, right?
Yeah.
But it seems so clearly obvious you should not do that, right? But somehow someone that's throwing around millions of dollars to people, somehow they thought that was a good idea. Which it always baffles me when there's stuff like that where you're just like, how's it possible? Like, it's in every sport. There's always just someone where you're like, they shouldn't be here anymore, but they just somehow keep managing to be here.
Yeah. It's just I think it's because of what he once was, right? Ekman Larson was a top defenseman in the game.
His whole
not even that long ago. We're talking 4 or 5
sadly,
years.
the best of his career was all when he was on the worst team.
Yeah, it really was. He was at one point a top 5 D-man for a couple of years. And then, he kind of trailed off to being a top 20, and then we made the trade for him hoping he could, bring that back. Fell way down. And then he kind of brought himself back a little bit with Florida, but not to this level. Again, we commented on Chris Tanev as well. There's probably a whole LTIR thing in the future and management positions for him and all this stuff. And you can understand a little bit of why they did it. I don't understand OELs.
No.
That is such a, let's just hope and pray and cross our fingers that he's somewhat of the guy he was 5 years ago. Not last year, 5 years ago. That's what they're hoping. Yeah, so it's I don't get it. If it was 1 or 2 years, totally understand it. 4 years is totally wrong. So that's my last one.
Again, I think this just shows how desperate Toronto is.
Yeah, they are hoping somebody just turns their career around or takes off because that's what they need.
All right, well, that being said, we're wrapping things up slowly here. So we're going to go into our winners and losers of the offseason so far. So I'm going to list you my winners and why I think so. So I have a few teams here. I got Nashville, Washington, San Jose, Chicago, New Jersey, Boston, and Edmonton. And I have them for all different reasons. So not from a contract perspective, but what they just did. So I talked about how I didn't necessarily like the contracts doled out by Nashville, but I think for the time being and the scoring, I think they did a great job in retooling and recouping that team. I can honestly say the same about Washington. That team clearly indicated that they didn't want to tank. They somehow made the playoffs last year. And even though I don't like all of the pieces that they added, I didn't like PLD. They overpaid for Matt Roy. They got Chychrun. But you know what? Ovi's going to go down with a bang. Give him a chance. Yeah. The San Jose signings, for example, the Toffoli and Wenberg, trading for Dellandrea. I just thought it was, let's put pieces that aren't incompetent around Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini and William Eklund. Let's continue to suck so we add more prospects, but in the time being, let's patch things. Same thing you could say about Chicago, so those two teams are together. Let's add people that aren't incompetent. New Jersey got the goalie that they needed. They added Brett Pesce, so now they have a legitimate top four pairing with Dougie Hamilton, Brett Pesce, Luke Hughes, and Simone Nemec. If your sixth guy is Jonas Siegenthaler, you're doing a pretty decent job.
Dillon.
Exactly.
Brendan
Dillon. Boston, I know we crapped on them with the Zordov and particularly the Lindholm contracts, but they're old. What are you going to do? They need to be competitive. This is for them. It's patching the things up, contract wise and cap. It's gonna be terrible, but they're gonna feel a team that's still gonna be difficult to play. The wheels are gonna fall off eventually, but to appease those fans, this is why I think they're a winner. And I think the crown jewel, the winner of the entire offseason, Edmonton. They address literally everything. Their depth is better. Their second line got better with Arvidsson and Skinner. Yeah. Janmark and Adam Henrique are insane depth pieces to keep it with the amount that they signed for. Connor Brown's coming back, and then they also picked up Matt Savoie. I don't know how that GM did that, but that is the crown jewel of the offseason so far, in my opinion. Gabe, your winners.
Yeah, I had Edmonton at the very top of my list. I really liked what Tampa did, just bolstering their future, opening the window. I really liked what Utah did. They needed a big splash their first summer to get the fans engaged, to get just the momentum going. Getting that number one D-man is really going to push them into that next category, and I think they could be a playoff contender next year. I did like what Vancouver did. I know some people were up and down, but I look forward to watching Jake DeBrusk evolve with P.
Yeah, pretty similar to Gabe. Edmonton was probably like number one on my list. Don't want them to be, but they had a great offseason, right? I mean, can't complain. Like they did really well. Even a team like Florida, I know they just won the cup and everything, but you got Reinhart at that sweetheart deal. They didn't go and do what a lot of cup teams do, which is overpay for veterans to stick around. They just said, everybody walk if you want too much, and we'll find ways to replace you, whether it was letting OEL walk and getting Nate Schmidt at league minimum, who's probably going to do just as good as OEL did. They were smart about it, so I thought that was pretty good. Again, like Gabe said, Utah, I thought they needed to and did exactly what they needed to, make a big splash, especially on defense. They have lots of forward prospects, but not a lot happening on defense. So I really like what they did. It's hard not to like what Nashville did. I do think in the future it's going to hurt them, but they're a team that I almost feel like they're a pretty good fan base that deserves some fun.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know, we could ask Steve a little more about this, being a big Nashville fan, but I just felt like they're so boring for so many years. Even with 100%. Yossi, Forsberg, and Saros, who I love all three of them, but the rest of the team's so boring. And now all of a sudden I want to watch Nashville games, and I've never said that in my life.
Jason Fiala was who would be talked about. Kevin Fiala.
Mark Naslin.
I agree.
They haven't had a lot of pop ever, so this is kind of cool to see them like this. Again, like Gabe said, maybe a total homer on this one, but I really like what the Canucks did. I wouldn't maybe rank them in the top 5 teams, or if I did at number 5, they're 5-6 for me for winners losers, on the winners side of things, top 5. Other than that, I don't know. Nobody else super stands out to me. Like you had mentioned, I kind of liked what the Chicago and San Jose's did as far as the rebuild. So hey, let's get some guys to help insulate the young guys, and let's get some contracts so we can easily just flip. Like when Chicago signed Alec Martinez at a 1-year deal at whatever it was. So I was it's such an easy second round pick probably for Chicago, and it helps them not rush their kids. So other than that, pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be similar to everyone else. Nashville, finally, just as Connor said, we finally have some offense to look at with this team, so that's nice. New Jersey. I'm just happy for Markstrom to get a shot with a team that's going to be in the playoffs, and I think if he plays well, they've got a good shot at like a cup run. I don't want to say they're the top favorites, but they're a talkable team. Pittsburgh, I think they're slowly starting to accept that they're in a rebuild and they have to move on. So just kind of happy for them. And then also the Sens having Allmark. That's a win for me because it's not like the Sens are winning. It's just like they got one.
They got
that one. They got that one.
We talked about that earlier. All right, so losers. I got a list here too. Winnipeg, because they literally did nothing except for watch all their guys walk. They're just going to be worse next year. I'm not going to say they're going to be terrible, but they just lost everybody. I'm going to disagree with you, Pittsburgh. I actually thought they're also one of the losers, particularly because there's no direction whatsoever at this point. Like, I don't know what they do. Like, they re-signed a bunch of guys. I just don't know what's going to happen. Carolina, not because I think they didn't do anything crazy. It was just
they didn't upgrade.
I
have the same thought with the Rangers.
Yeah, perfect, good. LA, because I have no clue what Rob Blake is doing. I think it's self-explanatory. We talked about it in the Kemper trade. Colorado, not because I don't think that team is good, but they only have $300,000 left, and Gabriel Landeskog hasn't played in 2.5 years. Nichushkin is going to miss a large chunk of the start of the season because of drug-related problems, which is the second time in the last 6 months. So I'm just picking them as a loser because they literally can't upgrade the team at all.
Yeah.
Toronto, we already made fun of them. What are they doing? And then Seattle, again, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Gabe, losers?
My top loser is Vegas. I think they lost Marchessault, Thompson, Simonson, and Mario, Carrier. A lot of big picks. Big players, and I think the way that they've dealt with their players' relations over the past few years is going to make them a team in the decline after that. Even though they won a cup, they're on that decline in my opinion. Seattle, biggest losers with their contracts, and LA, just because even though they got rid of PLD, they got Edmondson, and it's just flatline for me.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you guys have said so far. I do really agree with Gabe about Vegas. I do think Vegas is going to start to take their steps backwards. Like, there is still a lot of good pieces there, but I think they're in such cap hell now, and it's not going anywhere. I do wonder about their attempt at signing free agents. People can say, oh, they've gotten all these great players recently, but they're through a trade. Like, they're through a trade where technically the player doesn't have a choice.
Right.
Like, yeah, they re-sign after, but it's like you got traded for. They're a good team. But I wonder in 2 or 3 years when the team starts to go backwards and people start remembering the way that they've traded Fleury, Marchessault, other players, like, it's going to start to have a bad effect eventually. And I just think, yeah, they got worse. Look at all the guys they let go. And, like, Holtz could be something, but that's a lot to make up for. Like, even if he makes up for Stevenson's production, 50, 60 points, like, who's replacing Marchessault? William Carrier, Paul Cotter, all these depth guys that were really good for them. They're getting AHLers to fill those spots that don't have production. So, yeah, I think Vegas is up there for me. Obviously, we touched on LA. No need to touch any more there. Like, they're just worse. Toronto is probably worse. The big one for me, I'm going to harp on a lot here, and I've kind of been harping on them slowly, but I wanted to give it more time, is Detroit. I don't think Stevie Y is going to do anything like he did in Tampa, and I think people have to start looking at it. I thought this like 2 years ago when he signed like Compher and Kopp and guys, and Justin Holl, who's now just a hole.
Let me jump in here, Connor, real quick.
Yeah.
How many goalies does Detroit have?
4 or 5.
How many goalies did they sign this offseason alone?
3.
Why?
I don't know.
One of them being Jack Campbell.
I know.
What?
They have Jack Campbell, Billy Husso,
Cam Talbot.
Ned?
Ned's gone.
Ned left? Where'd he go?
He's in Pittsburgh.
Oh, I like that signing, actually.
Yeah.
That's a
he
good
got
signing.
traded. He played there last year. He actually stole the job from Jari at the end.
Right.
They got like 1 or 2 other not good guys. And then on top of it, actually, funny enough, I know Detroit has some of the better goalie prospects of the future, like Cossa and a few other guys. It's like, I I don't know. Steve Yzerman to me is just like mistake after free agency mistake. Like, remember when we used to rag on the Beagles and Roussells? He's doing that 3 free agencies in a row now, and that team is going to be in cap hell. Like, I saw the other day and I was like, oh, this is crazy. Like, Detroit has $17 million in cap space, but they have to sign Sider, Raymond, and someone else still. And I was like, well, that money's gone. And then I looked at their future, and it's completely locked up with terrible contracts. Jeff Petrie, Justin Holl, JT Compher, Andrew Kopp, a bunch of like middle guys, probably bottom 6, third, second pair at best guys, and they're all getting $3 or $4 million. It's like having a bunch of almost Zadorov-like contracts. Like, it's, yeah, I think Steve Yzerman's fucking up Detroit hard right now. That's my opinion.
That's
they have
tough
great
'cause
prospects.
They were pretty sucked for a while now.
It's crazy because they have great prospects, but I don't know what's going to happen if you keep signing terrible deals. Is there room for them to play? Can you pay them eventually? So, yeah, Detroit for me is right up there. And then other than that, I just have teams that were, like, non-active, like Rangers and stuff, that just, like, how are you supposed to build on last year when you literally added no one and just lost some depth guys? Like, that's probably not going to help you. And then one last one is Dallas. I touched on it with the defense, but I don't know. I just thought that particularly was not good. The defense shakeup they did.
Yeah.
That's it for me.
My losers actually might come as a surprise to some, but when you hear, you probably will go, of course. Edmonton. If you think of it, they lost in the Stanley Cup Finals, so therefore they are Derek's number 1 losers of the year.
I mean, technically the truth.
And you can sign all the players and fill all the stop gaps, but until you have the cup, you just lost in Game 7. And I say that, and you'd say, but Derek, you Canucks fans had that happen. I know, and I've heard about it right up until now, so it's time for you to take that, Edmonton. Who was the last team to lose in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final from Canada?
Us.
Edmonton.
It was Edmonton. Yeah, there you go. So that's my losers, the Edmonton Oilers in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
I think that's been the best take of these 2 parties.
Before I let everybody go, thank you for doing this with Derek and I. It's always so fun. We're going to do a bunch of these throughout the summer. I think we talked about an over-under pod. We have a fantasy pod coming up.
Love it.
Especially once we get into the season, there'll be a lot of hockey talk,
Yeah.
way more than now. It was just cool to be able to put all of our thoughts. I mean, some stuff we agree with, some stuff we don't. Like how Derek thinks that the best signing is Montour and Stevenson. Crazy. Before I let you go, there was one guy that I thought was pretty crazy that happened this summer that kind of fell through the cracks, but Matvei Michkov is coming to Philadelphia.
Right, man.
And the reason why he dropped to 7th overall last year was because everybody said he wasn't coming over for 3 or 4 more years.
Yeah.
But you would argue that if he was guaranteed he was supposed to come, he would have gone 2nd or 3rd overall.
Oh, he would have won 2nd.
There's that talent there apparently is very close to what Kucherov does.
Yeah.
His play style.
Kaprizov too.
And Kaprizov. So
Yeah.
he's coming next year. Just keep an eye out for all you Flyers fans. There's a tiny glimmer of hope, but you guys still signed a rapist on your team. So
And you have John Tortorella as your coach.
And Tortorella is going to run him down.
Yeah, I do worry about an offensively gifted Russian player under Tortorella's tutelage. Like, that to me is not how you get the most out of a guy. That's,
Defensively.
I'll be shocked if those two work out.
yeah. Well, that being said, thank you for everybody that listened to the 2 hours of these back-to-back podcasts. Derek and I appreciate you. I know Derek doesn't really appreciate anybody, but this time he does a little bit, I think.
As long as you drink Prime Energy.
Anyway, that's the pod. Bye.
Thanks for having us, guys.